What's up, people? Welcome to my show where I bring in different people from different career fields and walks of life to showcase their talents and specialties to the world. Today I have with me one of Beverly's own, Justin Greenberg. Justin Greenberg, I've known since third grade. He has his own political club, he's in journalism, and he's in speech and debate, and he's a wonderful person. So come on up, Justin. Thank you for being here, Justin.
Of course. Thank you for that great introduction, Amado.
Of course. How's everything going?
It's going well. This year's been good. Things are going well for me. Things are going well for the people around me. So it's been a good year.
Sounds positive. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
And my first question for you is, this is something that I'm always curious about whenever I meet someone. Not that it matters, but I'm always curious what the culture is in that person, because everybody has different cultures, different backgrounds, and within those cultures and backgrounds is a special gift. So I was just wondering what your culture is.
Well, my culture is not very diverse. It's not as interesting as some other people's. In terms of my mom's side, my family is European. My grandma on that side is from Poland, and my grandpa is from Germany. And then on my dad's side, we're all very American. I mean, we're Jewish too, not very religious at all, but it is definitely a factor in our lives because, you know, it's good to embrace that religion, even if you're not following every single rule, which some of the more religious people follow.
Yeah, and something I've heard from a wise person is it really doesn't matter what religion you are. All that matters is that you do the right thing and you choose to help people in life. Like, if you're going to choose to be a bully, that's just wrong.
Oh, 100%.
So no matter what, you just do the right thing.
I totally agree with that.
And then my next question for you is, so I've known you since third grade. We started at Hawthorne, then BV, now here. So before coming to BHUSD, where did you originally come from?
Well, before going to BHUSD, I went to a private school. It only went up to 6th grade, and the reason I transferred to BHUSD is because not only were we moving, not from very far, just from the city of LA to the city of Beverly Hills, but my brother, he graduated from that school, which went up to 6th grade, and my parents basically said, like, it's not worth keeping me there from 3rd grade to 6th grade, might as well just put both of us at Hawthorne. So we went to Hawthorne, which was really close to my house. It was great because I could walk home. I met a lot of new people, including you there, so we go way back, and it was a good experience, definitely transferring from that private school to that public school and meeting new people, seeing new things, experiencing new things.
And how did the private school that you were at compared to this school? Now, just FYI to the viewers, the people that go here, it is considered a private school, but it's still a public school. So, like, how does it compare?
Yeah, I would say this public school is about as close to a private school as a public school can get. I don't remember a lot about the private school I went to since it was so long ago. I mean, the last grade I went to a private school and was 2nd grade. But I do remember it was definitely a really small community. Each class was much smaller than the classes at Hawthorne, then at BV, now here. And I mean, the people really don't change much. There's a more diverse group of people at this school and at Hawthorne than there were at that private school, which is great.
And then my next question for you is, what did you like and dislike about Hawthorne from 3rd to 6th grade?
Well, I definitely disliked some things, including some of the people there. But I mean, I did like meeting some of the some newer people. However, some of the people there were frankly quite rude. But it's easy to let those people get you down. I think it's important to not let them get you down, though. And I've done my very best to, you know, not stoop to their level and really just be able to be nice to people even if they're rude to me. But the meeting new people aspect was great because honestly my friendships grew when I went to a public school. There were so many more options there and so many different types of cultures, so many types of backgrounds to meet, and a lot of activities that I wasn't offered when I was in a private school. So it was great being able to transfer in that and just kind of become a different version of myself.
Yeah, and I feel like you brought up a good point. This expression that I've heard, it's called sticks and stones. So with the people that weren't the nicest at Hawthorne, and you talked about not stooping to their level. It's all about sticks and stones, not focusing on what others say about you.
100%.
So, I mean, already you made a really good point to the viewers.
Right.
And then my next question for you is, so as news was announced, 6th grade, Beverly Vista was about to become the new middle school, because before, all the schools, Horseman, Hawthorne, El Rodeo, and then BV was TK to 8, and then we only had this high school here. So with that new change coming along, and with us now going to BV, how did that change impact you?
I don't think the change impacted me that much, to be completely honest. If I'm gonna be frank, I think I actually liked being at BV more. There were more options. The school was bigger. To be honest, the school was nicer. I think you can probably agree with that. Hawthorne's a really old school.
Yeah.
Some things were falling apart there, but BV was pretty great. I actually enjoyed my 2 years there. So I wouldn't say the change was that big for me, but if anything, I actually enjoyed it.
Yeah, something I enjoyed too is there are a lot more people, and I feel like I did make a lot more friends there compared to Hawthorne, and just the extracurriculars, because we didn't have that at Hawthorne, like the sports at BV,
Right.
and like the clubs, and I feel like it better helped set us up for high school.
Yeah, BV was really great setting us up for high school. I mean, it felt like just a small Beverly Hills high school there. There was less options, but some of the options were really similar to what is provided here, and that helped prepare us.
Yeah. And then we were hit with yet another change when we got to 7th grade. COVID, and you know, it was surprising for me, like, oh, like now first we transferred to the school, now we're hit with the pandemic. So I'm wondering, how did the pandemic impact you, good and bad?
I think 2020, I would just go with that. 2020 was quite the year.
Yeah.
From the pandemic to the changes in the political and social atmosphere in our country, and I think that's probably what pushed me to be more political. I think I saw some of the injustices and the things that I didn't like during that period, and I acted upon those, and I really gauged a sense of what was going on, and the reality of the situation in America, and that's what helped me really develop my, not skills, but knowledge of politics and my interest in it. In terms of the pandemic, though, I would say I was really lucky. I, thank God, did not lose anybody. I got COVID twice. Everybody in my family got COVID at least once, but luckily none of us had a severe reaction to it, and it really, besides the whole staying home thing, which impacted everyone everywhere, for me, it could have been a lot worse, and I'm really thankful it wasn't.
Well, I'm happy for you. And, you know, that you talked about something that brings me to my next question. So, I mean, you are very educated and interested in politics. And, you know, so is it because of the pandemic that, like, your knowledge just grew more? Like, when did you even first start discovering politics, becoming interested in it, and like just educating yourself on it?
Well, my brother, he's very political. He's much older than me. He's in his early 20s, so he was knowledgeable in terms of politics before I was. Probably back in the 2016 election is when I first heard him talking about it. But I mean, it's hard to get into politics when you're at a really young age, and I think I more developed my knowledge and my interest in it during the 2020, you know, the George Floyd protests, during the pandemic and the handling of that pandemic, and the growing division in our country that started really during that period, the misinformation in the media, and then of course the January 6th riot that like really escalated how much I wanted to, you know, impact the world of politics and try to bring people together. And I mean, although I've always somewhat been interested in it, I would say the post 2020 is when I was most interested, and obviously that interest is still growing.
And I mean, for me personally as well, that's when I started to become, like, I wouldn't say I was interested in it, but I was just, the stories that I was seeing, the stuff that I was seeing in the news, and even the 2020 election, I mean, it helped me see the viewpoints of not only Donald Trump, but Joe Biden, and even what Trump was like before his presidency. And, that brings me to my next question. So during COVID, there were a lot of opinions and people talking about how he handled COVID. You have some people who support him, who say that he handled it very well. They were sad that he's no longer president, and they're still fighting for him to be president because he plans to run again. And then you have people who say that he handled it very badly. So if you don't mind me asking, I was trying to get your viewpoint on how you think he handled it.
Well, I think COVID was largely mishandled by about everybody. I'm not here to completely talk badly about Trump. I'm by no means a Trump supporter. I'll get into why I don't like him probably later in this interview, but that's not the reason I'm here. I think he made some mistakes, and I think he did some things well. Ultimately, could he have done better? Absolutely. But I don't think he's to blame for the pandemic. I don't think he's to blame for, the people unfortunately losing their lives in this country. It was a horrible thing that happened, and I don't think any president would have been able to stop it from happening. Could some presidents have done better? Probably. But I'm not going to blame COVID on Trump. I don't think it's his fault. I think his handling could have been better, but, hindsight's 20/20, no pun intended.
Yeah, I hear you. And, I mean, people trying to point the finger at someone like him, we really don't know what's in his mindset. I mean, it's not just him. It goes for a lot of people. I don't know if you've noticed it, but like just people trying to put stuff onto another person, say you do this because of that, but you really don't know why they do what they do, because we're all individuals. We all have our own mindsets, so you really don't know unless you ask questions.
Absolutely.
And don't make assumptions.
100%.
So I do appreciate your viewpoint there.
Thank you.
And let's talk about so you have your own political club at the school now. So when did you first create it, and why? I actually think you answered the why part, but if you could elaborate more on that, that would be great.
Sure, yeah. So I started the Youth Political Activism Club here last year in my sophomore year. I started it with my friend. She now has moved to San Jose, so we were co-presidents now. I'm just the sole president of the club. Frankly, I didn't expect it to grow to as big as it has. I was expecting like 15, 20 people at the max to be interested in coming and talking about their opinions, but I mean, at our last meeting, you were there were like 45, 50 people. So it's definitely grown into quite a big club, and I'm proud of that. I'm happy about that, and I'm definitely happy that so many people are willing to come to the club and just talk about their opinions, even though they know people disagree with them. And that kind of gets me into the reason I started the club. It's the division. I don't like the division. I think the only way to get things done in this country right now is to come together, unify, and come up with some solutions. There's so many issues in our country, from gun violence to the border to drug abuse, homelessness, the mental health crisis. So many issues that need to be solved, that need to at least have some effort put into them, because there's so many politicians right now who sit and complain about these problems and point out how bad they are. And of course, they're terrible problems, but the only way that we can actually do something about it is if we come together and come up with some solutions, because the way we act right now, at least the way our politicians are acting right now, is it's kind of a one side versus the other thing. And the way the United States works politically is really you need a vast majority to get some real legislation done. And we don't have that in Congress. We don't have that in the Senate, neither side. So there's no way to get things done unless our politicians are willing to talk with one another, willing to see each other not as Democrats and as Republicans, but Americans trying to actually come together to fix these problems. And that's the reason I started the club. People at the school have so many different opinions about so many different political subjects, and I've noticed that. I don't have anything. I would say I'm probably more of a left-leaning person, but I have nothing against conservatives, nothing against Republicans, and I'm really happy to say that because so many people can't, and that's what I'm trying to fix. I'm trying to say to these conservatives at our school and to these liberals at our school, come together, talk about this issue, in a closed, safe setting and just be able to have civil discourse with one another. You don't have to come to an agreement. You just have to be able to hear each other out and hear a differing opinion.
Yeah, I mean I see the same thing too, and I've always been taught this. I feel like you've been taught the same thing too, is to just be open-minded, because there's pros and cons to every political party, and you talk about a good point too about us coming together unified, because we all have differences, whether it's ethnicity, opinions, it doesn't matter. That's one thing I do hope to see later on in the future, is more equality. I mean, made some progress, but the George Floyd protests, I mean, that just shows that we still need room to grow. We still need room to evolve. And I feel like we've already made some really good progress, and with your club, it's just gonna make things better.
Absolutely.
And honestly, any wise old person that you talk to, they're like, we depend on you guys because the other generation messed it up. And I see within the politicians too that most of them are like in their like 60s, 50s, or even 70s. So they come from a time that's so different than it is now. It's old-fashioned thinking that isn't gonna help shape our future and make it a better place.
For sure. And the thing that I want to capitalize on is that studies have shown that in the United States, the divide really isn't ideological, or in other words, it's not an actual difference, a vast difference in opinion. It's more so this emotional divide where people are not willing to talk with one another, and our culture is so divisive simply because of a differing opinion. And it's not that those differing opinions are just so completely, opposite of one another. It's simply that they're just different, and people aren't willing to embrace that and realize that that's a great thing. If we all agree with one another, we're not getting anything done.
Exactly. Yeah. And then my next question that I have for you is speech and debate. So you do speech and debate. So when did you first start speech and debate, first of all?
I started speech and debate back in, I would say, 6th grade. It's been a great journey for me. I've gone to the state championship 2 years in a row now for my freshman and my sophomore year. I do public forum debate, which is duo debate. It's really great. Speech and debate helps to sharpen your skills and make you a better public speaker, make you more willing to talk to people in a open setting, and not be you can be introverted. I would say I'm rather introverted, but I'm also willing to express my opinions. I'm willing to talk in front of people, and speech and debate helps to sharpen those skills, which are so important, by the way. Public speaking, and it's great that you're doing this because it shows that you have those public speaking skills, and it's so important as you go into the world after this. Mm-hmm. You need to be able to talk.
Yeah.
To communicate.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I feel like public speaking, I mean, no matter what, I mean, speech and debates, whether it's to be a lawyer or just knowing simply how to speak to others, especially if you're someone who's introverted. I mean, knowing you for so long, you haven't come off as that introverted person, but someone who's very introverted, they could use a club like this to help sharpen their speaking skills, because if you don't know how to speak in front of others, especially as an adult, you're really going to struggle. You're not going to get anywhere.
Right, yeah, and that's what the club really helps to do. I don't like that it's called a club. I think it's more of a team. We all work with one another. The captains, like myself and a couple other people, we're always willing to help write speeches and sharpen the skills of others and say, no, you're doing this wrong. You need to do this because it's going to help you. This is how you win, and it's not about winning. It's just about being able to go out, do your best, and hopefully you'll win. And the people on the team have realized that. We've all become really, really good, actually. In terms of who got to the state championship last year, pretty much everybody that went to the state qualifiers on our team got to the state championship.
Wow,
So it was, and 2 people got to the national championship, so it was a pretty good year for speech and debate.
Well, I mean, congratulations to you and the other speech and debate team. And my next question for you is, with your interest in politics and, of course, speech and debate, this really would prepare you for a career not only as a lawyer, but a future politician. If you were interested in that, you could become the next Barack Obama. He started out as a lawyer, worked his way up to president. So what do you see for yourself as a career? Like, do you see yourself being a lawyer and entering into politics?
I think you just described how I would like to see my future path in life. I want to go to college and major in poli-sci, political science, and then after that I want to go to law school to become a lawyer, really learn everything about the law, the Constitution, how our judicial system in America works, and then I want to go into politics to help actually make some change, because the only way to really make change is to be in office and to be the one writing legislation, voting on legislation. So I mean, it's obviously way down the road, but I would say that's how I would love to see my life, going into law, then going into politics.
Yeah, and that brings me to something that I did see is, I don't know if you've seen this in the media, but they talk about like these celebrities, Jay-Z, Beyonce, turning them into future politicians just because of their status as a celebrity. But I don't think that would work, because you need to have an understanding of the law and just how the country works in order to make those changes. So, I mean, what you're doing, what you want to do for yourself to get into office to make those changes, you're coming from a place of making sure that you understand the law. It's like being a principal here at the school. You need to start out as a teacher in the classroom in order to understand what the teachers are going through. Right. In order to be a medical doctor, you have to understand all aspects of medicine. Otherwise, you can't properly help the patient or the person that you're doing surgery on. So I feel like what you're saying, you make a really good point. So congratulations to you.
Thank you.
I mean, you are, out of all the kids that I've met here, you're really on the right path so far. And I think you have a bright future ahead of you.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. I'd say the same exact thing to you.
Thank you. And you're also in journalism, I understand, and you've been doing it since like freshman year, or like have you sharpened your skills in that even before freshman year?
So freshman year I started in journalism, as in beginning journalism, and then I took a break sophomore year to do some other things, and then I got back into it in my junior year this year. Our school newspaper, which not a lot of people know actually exists, is called Highlights. It's basically where myself, along with some other people in the program, we work together to write stories about what's going on at the school, what's going on in our community, what's going on around the world, in the United States, and it's great. We sharpen our writing skills for sure. The program, not a lot of people know this program exists, but it's really great, and I would definitely encourage, incoming freshmen or anybody who watched this video to join Highlights.
And I have seen Highlights. I mean, it's on the school website. Like, if you go to students, there's a section called Highlights, and I'm always checking it out daily. I don't always have time to read the articles, but I've read some of them briefly. Even the articles that you wrote, they're really good. It's really good writing.
Thank you. Yeah, the program definitely, the teaching style is great, because it helps make sure that we know how to write. We know how to write where we're not interfering with somebody's private business, or not, taking somebody's words out of context, and that's great, because in the future that can get you in real trouble, and it helps us know how to not do that now.
Yeah, I feel like that's specifically for reporters. I think some reporters have done that, and like that's what gets you into trouble as a reporter. So like, or even whatever career field you go into, there's a certain approach when it comes to writing about something, just making sure you're being safe of the privacy of others. Now, right. I know there's not really a lot of privacy nowadays, but you still need to have a way to like honor the privacy of others. So, right. So like the fact that you guys are learning that's really good. And let's talk about, so with your political club, come next year, while we're still in 2024, it's going to be a really important presidential election because, first of all, the fact that Trump wants to run for president again, he's dealt with those indictments, and it concerns the question on can he run for president, because he's already been banned in 2 states, and I've seen personally that there are some people who support him. They're protesting for him. They want him to be president again. There's others who think it would be a terrible thing for this country if he becomes president again. So I wanted to get your insight onto that. Like how do you think our country would be shaped depending on the results of this presidential election?
I mean, I think the whole election's a dumpster fire, if you want to know the truth.
Yeah.
I think our 2 options are probably the worst 2 options on either side. It's unfortunate that our country has decided to have the 2 people running be an 81-year-old and a 77-year-old. I think both options, quite frankly, are terrible. In terms of Trump's eligibility to run, I think he should be given the chance. Those 2 states which disqualified him to run, I believe that's going to the Supreme Court. I mean, he'll still be on the ballot there eventually because the Supreme Court's not gonna. But I personally think he should be allowed on the ballot, if you want to know the truth. Again, I'm by no means a Trump supporter. In fact, probably the opposite thing. But I think that our system in America of justice works, and if he is found guilty, I don't even think he's being tried of insurrection, but if he were to be, then we can call him an insurrectionist. But saying he can't be on the ballot because some people view him as an insurrectionist, I don't think that is the correct way to interpret our Constitution. They're trying to say it's the 14th Amendment. I don't think that's the correct way to interpret that Constitution, and frankly, I think the more dangerous thing is that can be used by both sides, especially with how divisive our current political system in America is. That can be used by both sides to weaponize and basically say, no, you can't run now because we view you as an insurrectionist and there's enough evidence to say you are one, especially if we have, a majority in this field or that field, and I don't think we should be allowing that. But on the topic of Joe Biden, also, he's definitely not a good option either. So definitely gonna have to work on that one, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and then my last 2 questions for you is, what's the hardest thing that you've dealt with in life, and how did you overcome that challenge? Because we've all, no matter what status you are as a person, just being human is challenging. So what's the hardest thing that you've dealt with so far?
Ooh, a lot. That's hard. I don't know. I would say my sophomore year was pretty hard. In terms of just a lot of things. Mentally, it was draining. That impacted my performance in school, which impacted my mental health even more, which impacted my performance in school even more, and it was this vicious cycle which continued on and on. But like I said, this year's going really well, so I don't like to focus on the past. I only like to focus on the current and the future, because we can't change what has already happened. We can only change what will happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, just I feel like look back in the past in some way, but I mean, just be grateful for that challenge that you went through, because you wouldn't be where you are now without that challenge. So,
right.
So I just want you to remember that leaving here, but I feel like you already knew that, so I feel like you're in good hands. And then my last question for you is, what's the most important thing that you've learned in life so far?
To keep trying, to make sure you put your best effort into anything, and if you're passionate about something, really chase it down and make sure you can do your best to be your best in that field, and not let anybody get you down. Like I said, there's a lot of people who have been rude to me over the years. There's a lot of people who have been rude to you over the years.
Exactly.
What comes around, or what goes around comes around, those people, they're not my focus. My focus is me making sure that the people who are nice to me can get great things. The people who the people who have helped me over the years, I want to help, to be nice to people, because if you're nice to people, people are going to be nice to you. It's the golden rule, and I think that's the most important thing I've learned over the years. It's just, it's I think the most valuable thing you can possibly take away from anything.
And you ended on a really good note, and and thank you again for being here on the show. You've done some really good things so far, I think, and it looks like you're going to continue with that, so just keep doing what you're doing, because you're doing it very well.
Thank you, Amado.
Of course.
I do appreciate that.
Of course. And that's it for the Amado Lucero Show. Stay tuned in. And this is where we get off now.
Whew.